This is the road I'm on tonight, taking me on this lonesome ride, away from the guilt, away from the fright, breaking on through the other side. This is the road I'm on tonight, taking me on this lonesome ride, away from the guilt, away from the fright, breaking on through the you. Stop believing in you.
Yo, what's up? I'm Desean K. Terry, and I am founder and one of the instructors over at the Last Acting Studio. And I'm really excited for y'all to be here in our first career strategy session of the year. And I get to talk to one of my friends, J. August Richards. And you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, everybody? J. August Richards. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited about this, but I want to say a couple things. Usually we do the Zoom sessions. However, if you know me and you've heard me, you've worked with me before, I love collaboration. And so I'm really excited because we are actually in Highland Park and we are at a very cool space called Outside in Theater. Outside in Theater ain't even open yet, y'all. We are in what they call the Art Box Studio, and some friends of mine who have been collaborators in the theater space, they have opened up this theater space. It will be officially open in July, and it's in Highland Park. There are no theaters in Highland Park, so I'm super excited about this. And they are working. One of the things they like to say is that they're working at the intersection of where live and digital theater meets. So a lot of their spaces and the work that they do, you can work in that space for live theater, but it's also they have the equipment and the technology to also easily make it digital theater. So I'm really, really excited about that. And they are going to open up officially in July. And their first project is going to be a play by Casey Rogers. I know some of y'all know Casey. So Casey is not like officially a part of the Last Acting Studio family, but everybody that knows Casey is a part of the Last Acting Studio family, and I've known Casey for years. And so this is so dope and exciting because her play, I Sell Windows, is going to be open in this space in July. Okay. So cool. So Mr. J. August Richards, man.
What's up?
I remember when I saw you first post that you during the strike, that it seems as if, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because we actually haven't spoke about a lot of this because I wanted us to just have this like authentic conversation. But I saw then that like, oh wow, he just created a course about being a series regular. And I have to first give you your flowers. And I have to give you your flowers because you are a 7-time series regular. And as an actor, and for the rest of y'all who are who are actors, whether you've done a series or you've been up for a series or you've been doing those guest stars, I mean, imagine that, y'all. Like, that is really and truly, to me, the nexus of sort of hard work in our industry, right? Because I think at some point with depending on the trajectory of your career, right? Maybe, this thing happens, and then all of a sudden the branding machine starts going. And so you're just getting offers. And I'm certain you've got offers and stuff like that. But I just have such mad respect just because of the amount of just sort of skill, both as an artist and also as a business person, that it takes to be in the television? How many hours of television?
250. I'm just taking this all in. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say over 250.
Yeah, I mean that is freaking impressive, and so I just I just think that that's really, really, really astounding. And so when you said that when you posted on that I'm doing this course, I got super excited, and I got super excited because this is not a space where we see a lot of black faces. It's not a space where we see a lot of black men. It's not a space where we see a lot of queer black men. And so, and that you have the experience, that you've been in the trenches. And he was saying, hey, let me open up to share with y'all some of the things that I know and learned. Now, I know, Jay, like I said we're friends, but we, but I honestly, and I think it's important that I don't like know him. Like, it's not like we hanging out every weekend. Right.
Right.
But
we feel like we know each other, though.
Yeah. Well, it's that sort of like, that industry thing where it's like, we've been in the same spaces so long.
And mutual respect and admiration as well.
Yeah.
Yes. I love your work. I love you. I think you're a powerful person. And the fact that you instruct this class, this studio is beautiful to me because there also are not a lot of black men, a lot of black queer men in this space. Teaching and leading. And I think it's so powerful.
Yeah. And so that's why it was powerful to me, because when I started going into the teaching space, that it's something that you got to unpack for yourself, because if you haven't seen images of yourself teaching and engaging, and we live in a society where it's like the majority of the teachers I had ever seen were just straight white men.
Exactly.
And so there was a connection to that.
Yeah.
But I also know you enough to know that you are insightful as a human being. And so when you said that you were starting this course, I was like, well, this is super exciting. He's going to share some like amazing nuggets, and he has the right experience. And I don't think a lot of people has heard it from your perspective. And so I just got to give you your flowers on that. And I'm super excited. And I'm so excited to help introduce some people from the LAS community to you and this beautiful thing that you're doing.
I appreciate that so much. Also, in terms of what you just said, I heard Billy Porter say something so beautiful and so profound. He talked about how when he was in theater school, the instruction was, be yourself, use yourself, apply yourself to this material, except you can't do it. You need to be something else. You need to pretend to be something else. You need to portray yourself as someone else in order to do what everybody else is going to do. So that's why I think it's so. I have a wonderful friend named Nichelle Protho who gave me my flowers just like you did, in the regards of saying there aren't a lot of black men in this space who are, leading. And so I noticed the people who gravitate toward the course, which is of all races, cultures, everything. But I also notice a profound reverberation with other actors that look like us and then are in our category. And while my course is absolutely for everyone in Universal, all of our lives, we've had to go and study theater with the suspension of disbelief, using someone else's experience as the teaching unit. My course and what I'm doing online and in talking is very black male forward, just for the sake of a lot of times we don't often get things explained from our point of view. We are constantly having to interpret. I even think about it in terms of television, especially. Rarely are we given the opportunity where something is written in our voice. I feel like I wish I could go fast with auditions and with memorizing lines, but I can't, because I have to make the lines mean something to me. If you want it as written, I have to find a way to do it as written. I can't, it doesn't live in my body that way. I watch my counterparts who are white, my white female counterparts, especially, and male counterparts as well. The words fit in their mouth like a glove, and it's a voice that they grew up hearing. I didn't necessarily hear someone say, just saying. That's the phrase that always drove me crazy when I was first starting out as an actor. In the 90s and the 2000s, every character would just say, just saying. And that just never fit well in my body. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what the intention was. And so you know, I feel like a lot of my experience comes out of also taking characters that are underwritten
Mm. Mm.
and and filling them.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of my experience as an actor comes from that place. Even when you listen to the course, and the advice that I give is about taking creative ownership,
Mhm.
especially as a marginalized person. You ain't got no choice but to own that character
Mhm.
and to invent that character and to imagine who that character can be, because you weren't necessarily in the mind of that room when they created that
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Especially when I first started out,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
rooms were not diverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there might be one person of color in
Yeah.
that room. It's a lot different now.
Yeah.
I know I'm filibustering. Sorry.
So just co-signing what you're saying, I think it would be helpful for you to say, because you went through that process. Again, I mean, so many people are on the chat. I wish I could speak individually to like exactly what you are experiencing. But I think that there are enough people in the chat that can, identify this. That as as an actor, right, and as an actor in terms of your art, and then also in this business that we are engaged in, right, there are certain things that happen within your process that that gets you closer to it. You're like, oh, okay, I did this, and now I'm noticing that the casting directors are responding more. The agents are my agent is calling more, giving me feedback.
Yeah.
You in your course talked about some things that specifically changed it for you, and it sort of shifted your paradigm, and that's when the series Regular Job started coming. Can you just share with me a bit of what that is?
Are we allowed to curse on here?
Go ahead.
Okay. So there's just a pivotal curse word in the story, but I went to theater school, had a wonderful experience, did, like we were talking about earlier, Chekhov, Lorraine Hansberry. I did all of these wonderful pieces. I learned so much about my craft in theater school. Love theater. I will always love theater, and I'm a theater actor to my core. When I got out of theater school, I was auditioning left, right, and center, and I wasn't really booking anything. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong.
Mm.
I got to live on campus for a year for free after I graduated. And when that year was up, they were like, all right, you got to go on Monday. It was Friday. I had a callback for a musical on Saturday. They asked if I could be on a plane on Monday. I said, I have to be on a plane on Monday. Went and did the musical for about 3 or 4 months, gained a lot of confidence from this was, it was like, I call it my graduate school, because we went throughout the country. I learned that everywhere is not New York and LA. It was just another education for me. I came back, I had more confidence to get co-stars and guest stars. So now I'm flowing there. I'm doing really well, booking the co-stars, booking the guest stars. Every time I got a series regular, though, I wasn't getting callbacks, and I couldn't really figure out why. Then I started getting a couple of callbacks, but I wasn't booking the roles. And I turned to the universe and I said, I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what it is. I need you to show me what I'm doing wrong. Just then, a guy that I was doing a play with called me up and said, hey, I heard about this thing called the Actors Gym that Eric LaSalle and Michael Beach are teaching. I was like, 2 black men, of course. So I was like, that sounds interesting. Let me go. I mean, these are guys that have the kind of career that I want to have. This might be something for me. Enrolled in the class. It was the most intense experience of my life. People are probably still a little shook from that class. It was intense in the best way, though.
Mm-hmm.
In the best way. And what I appreciated about them being in my category was that they knew the tricks that a lot of us can rely on. I don't know about you, but my rage is easily accessible.
Yeah.
And, my powers, quote unquote, and my anger, and those things are easy for me to find, but they wouldn't let me off the hook. Things that I used in theater school to kind of skate through, but they pushed me to move toward vulnerability and other things. So at that time in the 90s and the 2000s, every black male audition was about you being a thug, or, urban, as they called it, right?
Yeah.
So I had typed myself out of those roles because I had casting directors say to me, you're a great actor, you're just not right for this part. I knew what that meant. All my life I had been, looked at a certain way in terms of being, somebody who excelled in school, and that there was a lot of stuff that I carried from my childhood about that. in this acting class, they smelled it immediately. And they cast me as a character that was beyond a thug. They cast me as a character that I would describe almost as a Neanderthal, which was the character from Danny and the Deep Blue Sea. So I was scared of it out of my, and they, like I said, they were intense, super scared of it. I got up and I did the scene. It was a disaster. And Mike said to me, I gave you a caged animal and you turned him into a pussy psychologist in front of all of my peers, which was humiliating, but sometimes you need that. I needed that kick in the butt. So that caused something to happen in my body. Then earlier that week, I'd called him and confessed to him that I was having a hard time in the class and I thought about quitting. So in the middle of my postmortem about the scene, he said, you called me this week and you said that you couldn't handle this class. And I said, that's not what I said. And he said, no, that's exactly what you said. You called me and you said you can't hack it. And I said, that is not what I said. And he goes, are you calling me a liar? And I said, yes, I'm calling you a fucking liar because I didn't say that. And then he goes, put that in the scene. And because I had spent my whole life being told that passion or anger or pain was supposed to look one way, it was like he introduced me to this whole world in myself that I was like, oh, those things I could use? And I was like, okay, I got it. And he said, next week, I want you to show up with your dick in your hand. So I went away. I applied the technique in a very intense way. I locked myself in my room for an hour. I set a timer. I was like, I'm not walking out of this door for an hour until I really understand what this scene is about and who this person is. I made it through the hour. I was like, and I started to really understand the work. So I did that every day until I had to go back up. And I do that to this day. I have a hourglass that's an hour. And I turn the hourglass over, I close the door, and I don't get up from my desk until I'm finished working for an hour. So did that for a week, came back to the actor's gym. I got up on stage to do the scene. I took off all my clothes except my underwear, shoved my hand down in my junk. I was like, you want me to come with my junk in my hand? I laid down in the bed. When she woke me up, I jumped out of the bed like somebody was trying to attack me. And I understood it. And at the end, he shook my hand and he said, I got to give it to you, man. You really showed up in a big way. And that was the thing that I needed to break that barrier of booking the co-stars and the guest stars to the series regular world. I started to begin to realize I have to use my own wealth of experience, of emotion, and I'll never type myself out again. I'll never do that to myself again. It was such a crime that I did that to myself. So when I got an audition for this streetwise vampire hunter, homeless, rough around the edges, a role that ordinarily would have scared me, now that I was out of this class, I was like, I can't wait to find him in me. And there were a lot of guys that I thought would have been better for the role than me. The old me would have thought that way. But I knew that I was right because then I started tapping on the things that I needed to make the vampires real and to make my homelessness real and to make my connection to my gang real. And I walked in and read it. It was just me and the casting director pre-read. She was kind of like looking at me like I was crazy. And she was like, can you come back at 3? I was like, oh, yeah. And she was like, oh, that word is duet, as dust, not duet. I was like, oh, okay. Came back at 3. I forgot to tell you I dyed my hair red because the head of the WB at the time felt I was too clean cut for the role. She said that. So I dyed my hair red.
Interesting.
Red for Joss and them. They said, is that a spray? And I was like, yeah, it is a spray in my hair. And they were like, okay, so you can remove that? And I was like, absolutely. And then I got the part.
Cool. That's so dope. What I hear from that and what I'm hoping other people are hearing from that, because you're one of the mottos that you have like a bunch of them, but one of the mottos that you have is you say, and correct me if there's anything that I'm misstating.
Okay.
You say, don't do the scene right. Do the scene as you.
Boom.
Right.
Yes.
And so I just want to point that out. And now I'm getting a little frustrated with my, I'm seeing some of my students in my head that he's saying that the discovery of doing the scene as him led him to book archetypes or roles that you don't even assign to him upon meeting him, right? Because sometimes, people get a little bit confused about this whole, concept of letting yourself into it, that means that you're going to be playing yourself all the time.
Right.
But you're saying from the very beginning, by starting to live the scene as me, I ended up opening and accessing these, these roles that people may not have immediately cast you as, or you thought that you wouldn't cast you as.
That I wouldn't have cast me as. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
That the thing that you're doing to yourself.
The thing that I'm doing to myself. And when I say don't do the scene right, I think that we all, when we read a scene, we have an idea of what it's supposed to be. We have an idea of how it's supposed to sound. The thing says pause there, so I'm going to pause there. The thing says, I do the Carlton happy dance. I'm going to do the Carlton happy dance. The thing says, what are you doing? I'm going to say, what are you doing? Instead of what you doing? Like I really would. You know what I mean? Letting yourself into the piece, finding your way into it. Like if it doesn't sit right with you, change it, move it, like make it live in your body. I think there's a fine line too, because as we talk about, like me making, doing the scene as me doesn't mean that I'm going to make the character from DC like me, with a Panamanian background like me, all of the things that I am on paper. That's not so much what I mean. I mean emotionally making it you, maybe even behaviorally, maybe even adding some of your quirks, asking yourself, in this scenario, I know it says that I get embarrassed because he wants to kiss me. Would I really get embarrassed? And if I did get embarrassed, what do I do when I get embarrassed? Do I do what every actor does in the whole world when they get embarrassed? Do I play the scene like that? Or do I really ask myself, how do I really act? Do I try to act like nothing's happening? Or when I get embarrassed, do I just turn into a little boy, a little girl? But asking yourself those tough questions instead of doing the familiar.
Yeah, and what I like about what you're saying as well is that I definitely can see the fruits from the audition process. But what's also cool about what you're doing is that because you're such a coming from the experience of an actor, right? When we start then getting into the series regular of it all, right? Because I was thinking about that even today, what I'm saying, that whole notion of being a series regular, now for most actors, I think unless you have a situation where it's like you're doing voiceovers or you're doing commercials, for most of us, right, it's that series regular job. When you land that series regular job, that's where a lot of us are going to make our most income as an actor.
Yes.
And so there's so much pressure on it, and to sort of understand it. But, as someone who's been through this process where it's like all of a sudden tomorrow, hey, you're a series regular. Okay, a series regular. What is that? What do I do? But what you're saying right now, even in the process of the auditioning, I think are the gems of also making it through that process. Absolutely. Right? That bringing can I read this? Because I think this is so inspiring. This thing that Gabby's here, y'all. At some point she might just throw out a question or tell me to stop talking because it's going too long or something. But you have this quote. It says, have the courage to say, this is me. Whatever the character or character description, no matter how wrong, quotes, you feel for the role, go in there with all of you and look that scene partner in the eye with the confidence and the assuredness you can muster and fight for what the character needs. Don't let you or your thoughts and ideas about you get in the way. Allow that character to use your body, mind, and voice to get what they want and need. If you're wrong for the role, that's not your business. Don't worry about it. Worry about what the character wants and go after that unflinchingly. Dude, that's...
Damn, I said that?
Yes, that's in one of your interviews.
I was like, damn, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing,
Wow.
Beautiful, so motivating and
feel.
Confronting in the sense of like, because again, I think that what I say, and again, the reason why I'm saying that I preface some of the things is that this is not a pre-thought conversation. We're just having this as sort of indicators. And I was super interested in sort of what Jay wanted to say to unpack sort of what his journey was in accomplishing this incredible feat of becoming a series regular. Because one of the things I say to people is that, you know, we're not aware of how easy it is and how much in our process, we actually go into a phase of erasure, erasing who we are, right? Rather than actually and not understanding how difficult it is to show up as yourself when you live in a society, and depending on where you feel you fit within that, to really unpack that and show up as yourself. But
Yes.
once you do, I do believe that you get the keys to the kingdom. So talk
Hands
to me
down.
about this quote and where it came from and all
Ooh.
that stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you again for allowing me to come here, because I love us for real, to quote Monique. And when I say us, I mean actors.
Mm.
I love us deeply. And so I feel like because Eric and Mike did for me, I even knew then. Because when I was in that class, I remembered once everything started clicking for me, I remember I had 3 auditions on one day. I got callbacks for 2 and booked 2. And I knew that the switch had flipped. I'm also smart enough to know that the switch didn't flip for everyone in that class. What I've come to learn is that it's about us chasing the switch. You got to find that switch, that thing that somebody can say to you that will turn on the lights for you. And so I felt even in that moment when they did that for me, I wanted to do that for somebody. So every time I get an opportunity to do something like this, I'm so grateful, because maybe one thing I say will land. And then my course, I think over the course of my career, I started to look at the landscape of being a series regular. So my first one, I was very lucky because I was dating a series regular at the same time. And she was very instrumental in me keeping the job, because there were so many things that I didn't understand. There were so many things I didn't expect. I didn't know what to do with. And because she had been through it before, she was able to guide me through it. Second series regular, third series regular, I started to really figure out that that being a series regular is a little more corporate than people think it might be. And that was interesting, because we're actors, man. We're creative. We love the work that we do. I mean, you got to be so passionate to pursue this career. But there's such a interesting business model to it.
Yeah.
And so I had a sort of 3-year hiatus between series 3 and 4 where I kind of couldn't get arrested. And
I love that. A 3-year hiatus. I had a 3-year hiatus between series 3 and 4.
It did.
Everyone wants one of those hiatuses.
I didn't know it was a hiatus while I was living it, though. It felt like the end of the world.
Yeah, now it's a hiatus.
Yes, but 18 months was underemployment. I did 2 guest stars, and then for 18 months I booked nothing. And this was again after having done 3 series, and I was in a weird age category. I know I'm not answering your question at all, and I will.
You're speaking of what's important.
But that period happened, and I had a huge transformation, which coincidentally overlaid the period where I started to really embrace and accept my sexuality in that period, because I had begun to attach my self-worth to my career, which is deadly. And so when it looked like it was being taken away from me a bit, I didn't know where to gather it from. And so relying on something that was not who I really was not serving me. So I had to really go on this exploration of who I really am. And so as a result, I went through that period, and then I booked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was a guest star. And then from that guest star, I booked my next 2 series. And that's when the course started formulating in my mind. I was like, I see the pattern.
Wow.
Now, let me also attribute a lot of it to my representation, whom I love. And, none of us can do this alone. There's a part that we do, and there's a part that they do. So I began to notice the part that I did, and began to start writing the course in the back of my mind. I was like, if I wrote a course about being a series regular, these are the things that I would want to talk about. These are the things that I think people should know, because most actors don't know the players, which is profound to me. Look, I didn't know the players either when I started. I didn't know what the political landscape of the studio and the network, the executives, I didn't understand how that worked until Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then Notorious, then Kevin Probably Saves the World. I started to understand that corporate matrix. So all of those pieces I began to put together, and I was like, now is my time. Now is my time. Someone did it for me, so maybe I can be that person to ignite that spark in someone else.
And the thing that I'm responding to what you're saying is, and also why I think that your point of view, I think is so useful, because what I see, and I'm hoping that a lot of people can see their experience within yours, because what I'm hearing that I think is really useful is that, first of all, you have a mind where it's like you think also pragmatically, so you talk about the business of it, which I think is so important for us. I mean, beyond just even the experience of being actors, this is an American challenge that we have, that we are expected to know what we want to do before we actually experience it. So we wanted to be actors, and we didn't know what that experience, we really didn't know what that was. And it may not be the best way to go about selecting a career, right? Or selecting a job. And so
because you may not like those backstage parts, those business parts of it. Because like in the course, how I say there's the work of being a series regular, there's the job of being a series regular, and there's a business. If you don't like the business, and if you don't like the work that you have to do between jobs, which can be harrowing, like it was in my case, it can become very, not working can be very confronting. Because you're bringing a lot to not work, So if you don't like those things, you have to like those things almost as much as the work.
Well, but what I appreciate is, in you looking back on it, is this sort of, because those series regular opportunities, right, when they happen, right, first of all, getting there, I know, y'all, is just so, it's like, oh, wow, it's like looking up at a mountain. And then once you get to the mountain, you realize, oh, there's a whole other mountain that I need to,
yes, exactly
that I need to climb.
Oh, I thought this was high.
Ooh, but you haven't even been prepping for the second mountain. So I think that, anyone who's, the folks who are here to even, because when do you even have conversations like you even doing this course, like, oh, let's talk about it, right? So I just think it's so smart.
And the second mountain is deeper for people of color and people in marginalized categories. It can be deep because you can look up and be like, I don't even see the other peak. For me, I see that one peak, and for me it was Will Smith. It was like, okay, he's on that peak. But I don't see a lot of like how other categories got the Jake Gyllenhaal and the Chris Evans and the Chris Pine and the Chris this and the Ryan that and the Ryan this one and the Ryan that one. You know what I mean? So that can be a little confronting.
But I think, but again, it's a sort of like, well, that's one of the things that makes this so powerful to me, is because you also are speaking from someone who's like, because sometimes, actors, they're so amazing. Actors are so amazing. We adore them. We respect them, and we see the final take. And so we look at actors and we put their experience outside. Oh, they just got it. It's just happened. But to hear your journey as to how you felt on the outside of the thing, right? It's like you're saying, I had to unpack. And the thing that brought it closer to me is actually bringing all of the sort of like the personal and accepting and, bringing you, like really bringing you to it, that was actually the thing that brought it closer to you. Can you speak a little bit? And you already started talking about it. Can
I say this?
Yeah,
you
go.
Inspired one thought.
Yeah, go.
In the chapter in the course called Securing the Next Job, this is the thing that keeps me engaged between jobs now, is finding new parts of myself that I want to share with the camera for the next job. And that was it wasn't intentional in that 3-year period where I landed on the fact that, okay, I got to really embrace this and live my life 100% as a gay man. I have to do this. And then it served me in subsequent roles. It wasn't intentional, but in these periods, because I'm between jobs at the moment, and I like to go on an exploration, finding parts of myself that I'm unfamiliar with. and hopefully somehow I can use it in whatever role that there is that I'm playing next. In this season of my life, like we were talking about, like I have had to confront my own imposter syndrome and recognize that as actors, it's kind of inherent that we have a certain amount of imposter syndrome. But, you know, I was so gung-ho about doing the course, and I just started writing it out of the clear blue. And someone had asked me a long time ago if I wanted to do an online course, but I just kind of started writing it. And then when I was halfway through, I was like, yeah, I may have something here. So I called her back. Her name is J. Love Calderon, a brilliant business coach. And I said, you know what? I think I'm ready. I'm working on it now. I'm halfway through. I think I'm ready to try this, you know? We did it. It was just a pure love. It was all love. But then when it came out, for a second there, I was like, who am I to have these big opinions? It was just a thing, if I'm being 100% transparent. And I realized though so much of that can sometimes come down to, you know, the way sometimes I feel like this business can make marginalized people's voices feel smaller. And I had to really shake that off and come to just confront that for a second and say, no, I have been a professional actor for almost 30 years. I have done no other job but acting for 30 years. I've done 7 series regulars, 6 of which I had to stand in front of the whole network, the whole studio, the whole production team and perform, and I did. 1 I got offered. Beyond that, I did countless guest stars, co-stars. I have built my career from the ground up. I moved out here with nothing. I lived on $1,000 a month for years. And that is enough. And I'm allowed to have a perspective. And so those own internal voices sometimes that we have to, you know, even just going to an audition, sometimes you feel like I don't have enough of a name for this role, or my resume isn't big enough for this role. Who cares? No one cares. If you know, connect to that material and do what I described in that thing and find that place in you, you can leapfrog, you know, a lot of people and book a role. So.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I hope that y'all are hearing and experiencing what I'm hearing, because what I think is so unique about what you're saying is you are dialoguing on both the sort of like the internal and sort of personal experience, your own personal things, and the things that we don't understand about your life and the way that you may feel other, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be your sexuality. It can be I'm from Alabama, Huntsville, and I talk to people about this all the time. Just like, you know, and you feel like, you know, that this part of myself, like you're not allowing in. Or even you're saying the internal conversations that you have with yourself. What I'm hearing is that because very rarely do I feel like we get that connector of, because we're in a capitalist, we are in one of the most capitalist of the industries, right? The film and television industry is extremely capitalist. It is so opposite of art that we work in, right? Or the investigation of the personal. But what I'm hearing from you is that you have these moments of connector where it's the personal work that you're doing, whether it's, you know, like you're saying, talking about your sexuality, engaging in your sexuality, living, right? That in that personal work, that it actually opens up this thing, right? And it's more freeing, I would imagine. It's more freeing than looking at it, oh, let me look at this from the capitalist perspective of this job or this scene or this pilot that I'm auditioning for. And I'm saying this because this is something that I think as an artist, as an actor, I have to keep unpacking. And I think that we, as students, all of us, students of acting, students of the art, that we also need to realize sometimes that you are approaching the scene for the business of it right now. You are not doing the art. You know what I'm saying? And empower the work, the personal work, and the artistry of it, and not do the job that the business executives are supposed to be doing, and advocate for the humanity. Because again, you know, and I do want to push forward a little bit, right? Because
that's what they want you to do. They want you
Yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
to bring the humanity
Exactly.
into the piece, because they know that the audience watching it is ultimately going to respond to your show of humanity.
Yep.
If you can really reveal it.
Yep. And it's funny how we as the actors, we, like I said that, like I was like, my job as the actor is to bring the humanity to the set, right?
Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, when you know, when you're on a set, eventually things are going to get tense.
Right.
I mean, literally, you creating a world out of nowhere.
Right.
It's chaos. It's chaos. And so I think for the entire experience, you know, one of the things that people enjoy on set is when the camera says roll, and if the actor is then sort of like brings the humanity. Okay, that's why we do it. Remind me that I'm
Yes.
human. Remind me that I
Yes.
want to have a story be told.
Yeah.
So let's push forward a little bit. I'm
Okay.
trying to be conscious of time,
Okay.
y'all.
Fair enough.
Let's push forward a little bit because you talk after talking about, you know, what's your personal journey to you know, start booking the series regular roles. You have a lot of great insight on advice that I think that everyone should, you know, at least think about, or even be aware that these things may come up for you once you get there, about the job itself. So I just want to just talk about that. I mean, I guess the first thing I would say is, I think just start there. Like, what are your sort of like takeaways or insights that you feel like an actor should know or think about for when they're when they get the series regular job?
So regarding the job, I think that the job obviously is to, you know, show up on time, to know the lines.
Wait. You did this the definition of a series regular? Do you remember it offhand?
The entire thing is a series regular takes creative ownership of the role they've been hired to play and collaborates with each department within the production to bring the character to life. Now that is the work. Now the job is on the set, they take on a leadership position, and off of the set, they positively promote and represent not only the show, but the studio and network at all times within truthfulness and reason. So what I mean by that is, if I'm just talking to you and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about the show. If I'm on camera, you know, obviously I have to represent the show positively. And, you know, some people would say that that's obvious, but I think that in this day and age with social media and such, a lot of people are getting kind of caught up in a wrong way and forgetting that that is a part of the job. Then the business is to use the opportunity to master your craft, further your career, and build financial stability for yourself. So that is something that I'm deeply passionate about as far as the business goes. Oh, to also leverage, you can never forget to leverage the series that you're on into another series, hopefully. But on every job are the seeds of 10 jobs. I lie to you now, it's like Pokemon. You got to find them. They're everywhere. It might be the PA. It could be one of the writers who's a baby writer right now, but is going to go on to be a showrunner. It's going to be, and this is where actors, I think a lot of times miss the boat, is with the studio and network executives. They are the ones who are ultimately going to say yes to you for your next job. So there's an entire landscape of a future work that is present in the current job. You also, it's incumbent upon actors. I used to call this pitching your tent. When an actor gets a job and suddenly they become a monster. What I say you're pitching your tent there because you're not thinking about the future. You're parking yourself on this job and this job alone. So you have to, you know, forward think to when this show is over. I need these people to be advocates for me. So money is a huge one for me because there has been a shift in this industry and no one is telling anybody that the business has changed. I think we figured it out over the course of the strike. But there was a time.
But we will forget.
But there was a time when actors were rich.
Yeah.
Actors are no longer rich.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you book your series regular, it is not about you buying a Range Rover right away. It's not about you moving into a house right away. It's not about those things, because the way that the business used to be structured, if you got a series regular, you were good for a bit. Especially because it was probably going to run more than one season as things do now, right? So now, because of the financial landscape of what we do as actors, it is incumbent that you keep it chill. In the course, I lay out very specifically what I think every actor needs to do based upon the season of television they're on. Because also, in this climate, when your show is over, you ain't getting no residuals. I fortunately did Angel in the 90s. I still get residuals from that show. They're not huge, but they're something. These days, it ain't going to be nothing. So I go into great detail about money and the series regular experience because it has shifted and people are not conscious of it.
Yeah. I just love the detail in which you're thinking about it and how you're looking at it holistically, because you know, I talked about, you know, capitalism and the personal and the artistry, and as actors, you know, we run a corporation. We do. We have a brand. And it sucks when you know, things are happening, or your business, or things have occurred in your business that you have not you know, even put in consideration because you're caught up in other things. I feel like this should have been a 3-part conversation
because we didn't even get to talk about the team aspect of
the
business.
Not yet. And
okay.
I want to go back, and I want to focus on.
We could save that. We'll save that if you want to know.
We
about
can always
the team
come back and
aspect,
do it again. We can always do this
or
again.
they could check out the course at www.beingaseriesregular.com.
Yes, that part.
I go into everything in detail in the course.
Beautiful. Let's talk about the work, right? Because you said. And say it again, because I can't remember it.
Okay.
What is the definition of the work of the series regular?
The work of being a series regular to me is unique. It's different than doing a feature or doing a play, because for me, the definition of a character is the sum total of events that the character does throughout the course of the piece itself. So you have a fixed piece of material that you can gauge, measure, take things from, create the character and build the character off of. In television, you don't have that luxury. You get one script at a time, maybe a few if you're lucky, and your character isn't finished yet. Casting you becomes a part of finishing it. So you are intricate to the development of the character, and therefore, to be a good series regular, you have to take creative ownership of the character. You can't wait for other people to tell you who to be, what to do, how to feel, how you feel about her over there, how you feel about him in the office. You know, you got to have opinions about everything. How do I feel about the case? Why is this case important to me? Do I drink coffee? Do I drink tea? When the prop guy asked me, do I want a martini or do I want white wine? What does it say about my character? Okay, I'm going to make these choices. I'm collaborating with the prop man, with the costume prop person, with the costumes, with the writers. I'm collaborating with everybody to fulfill this vision that we are creating together.
Great.
And that's the difference between a series regular to me. And so these are the skills that you want to show in your audition.
Exactly. So it's like, so you walk on to the set, right? And as a series regular, because one of the things that you say, I don't remember what it was. You say a series regular requires one thing, you. Right?
Yes.
And so you showing up now for day one, and you are there to collaborate.
Yes.
And if you aren't collaborating, then you are not taking advantage of the opportunity, right?
That's correct.
And in addition to that, right, if you, what we're saying, like what you did in the audition process impacts what you're doing. When are you going to take agency and start bringing you to it?
Yes.
When are you going to? You is the thing that you collaborate with, that you have as collaboration.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like my version or my interpretation of what's happening in this world, and they want that collaboration. Like, you are a part of that, the collaboration of the entire set. And I'm saying that because I hope, for those of you who book your series regulars this year, because we in pilot season, yay, let's go. When you book your series regular this week, that you walk into the set empowered and having agency, that, okay, let me generously collaborate.
Yes.
Not be an
I
asshole.
love that, generously.
Yeah, tell them.
Not be an asshole.
Right,
Exactly.
right. Because another thing that you say that I think is so fantastic. I think you say that, like, you know, you have relative power now that you're a series regular, right? And so utilizing that in a way that really serves for ultimately, you know, hopefully benefit your career by really starting that practice of bringing yourself and collaborating, which I think is just, I think it's you just starting from the audition that
Yes.
immediately you're putting yourself into it. Then you have your thing that you're collaborating
And
with.
they will start writing to what you show them. Like if let's say you make a strong choice about somebody in the office, they might see that and that might give them an idea. I try to be very ginger with this conversation because sometimes, showrunners some might feel a little whatever by that. In the course, I boldly say, and I stand by this, you can slightly steer your character a little bit. Yes, they know where your character's going down the road, but there are things that can happen, things that you can do that they will start writing to. They want ideas from you. If they hate what you're doing, they'll tell you not to do it or they'll just leave it on the cutting room floor. But if you give them something, they will literally go, did you see that look that so-and-so gave so-and-so? We need to write more to that. In one of my lives with one of the writers from a show that I was on, he told me on the live on Instagram something I didn't know, which was on a show that I did called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. I was a guest star. The chemistry between myself and the leading lady they felt was interesting. So they wrote more scenes with her and I alone, even though she was brothers with my husband. So you know the character. So that's one of the ways that you can not help them, but collaborate.
Yeah.
It's just collaboration. And like I said, maybe they were planning certain things that you might bring to the table all along, or you can give them an idea.
Yeah, and what I'm also hearing is that you're saying that in this idea of collaboration, collaboration does not necessarily mean that you need to use your words, that you need to
Right.
don't have nobody email me, be like, well, I saw Desean and Jay said, and so I'm emailing you, showrunner, to tell you my idea, right? That may not be the way that you get to collaborate, and it may not actually. It's probably not the most powerful way that you get to collaborate,
Right.
Right,
I say
but it's
just
about
do
starting.
it. Me personally, I just feel like you just gotta show it to them. I don't even like me personally. Some actors like to talk a great deal before they shoot the scene. I don't really like to talk about it. I just want to show you what I'm thinking. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yep. And then you will notice that sometimes a writer won't necessarily show up for your scene because they trust you. They'll trust you. They know when so-and-so is in a scene, they're going to know what to do. I don't have to be there for them.
Beautiful. Hey, Gabby, how are we getting questions? We haven't told people that y'all can put questions in the chat. Okay, we have one, so we'll keep talking if y'all ain't got no questions. But if you do have a question for Jay, please put it in the chat, and then we will spend a few minutes later going over y'all's questions that you have. Anything that you want to talk about. If it's a business question, if it's an artistic question, please go ahead and do it. So let me talk to you about this.
Yes.
Because I think it would be fascinating. So you were, we were talking earlier because you had a self-tape that you were doing today, right?
I am working on a self-tape today.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, whatever you are comfortable sharing. If you want to keep some of your process secret, I understand that. So, but what is then your process of, and why I'm interested in this is, different people say different things about the self-tape process, right? Like I have a number of casting directors who say, I want you to do that self-tape. You just do it twice and then send the tape in. That's the process that that some casting directors say, right?
Yeah.
I have a different process than that.
Yeah.
Different people have. But what is your, what can you share with us about your process of self-taping?
You know what's deep? I don't think anybody really knows yet what self-tape, the fullest extent of what a self-tape can be, what a self-tape should be. I think it's still being determined, and I'm still determining it for myself. My last 6 in-person auditions, minus one that I had during the strike, my last 6 in-person auditions I booked. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say my last 100 self-tapes, I did not book. Saying all that to say, there is a rhythm to the room that I miss, that I understand. I think that there are tools in the room that help you build a career, not just book a role. So how that is going to happen moving forward, I don't think anybody knows. For example, I developed a relationship with a very prominent writer just because he saw me so many times in the room, saw my work so much. He people say, yeah, people might remember still from self-tape. From the producers that I've talked to, and I've been doing a private study about this for a few years now, I don't see that happen. I don't hear about it happening. So all of that is to say, my current theory, because also the beautiful thing about the room is that, once again, we're talking about using you, right? So the reason why the room was my wheelhouse was because I just came in pouring on me from the door. Don Cheadle has said to me for years, you book the role before you ever open your mouth to say a word of the sides. I find that to be true. If you come in being you, and that doesn't mean that you have to be a ball of energy. That doesn't mean you have to be over the top. That doesn't mean any of those things. Puff said, even the biggest superstars in the world, like Janet Jackson, walk into the room, don't say a word, but you can feel their presence. Saying all that to say, that was one of the great tools that I had in my arsenal for booking a role. I did book my last series on tape, which was Vampire Academy. So that was the first role I booked on tape, maybe ever. So my current theory is just the you that you are using in the scene just has to be present, so present that when it's over, I have an idea of who you are as a person. That's my feeling right now. And right now I'm open to learning, because while we've been doing self-tape for a very long time, I think exclusive self-taping is new work since COVID. So I think it's still being determined, but that's my feeling. Like when I think about Vampire Academy, I knew who that guy was, and I knew who he was in me. And I was definitely playing a character, if you will, but it was a part of myself that is very mysterious and dignified and political, and someone who's an ambassador. And so yes, so that's how I approach it. So with this current thing, I don't know yet. It's to play somebody that's very unlike myself, quote unquote, but I'm gonna use me, and we'll see how it goes.
Beautiful. Okay, so let me look at some of the questions. Gabby, it is 8:58, and I am getting to the questions. I am on time.
Oh, you're on it.
I
nice.
am on it.
Very good.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, let me go with Andrea. Other than seeing that it's corporate, what were those things you learned during your first series regular?
So many things. I learned the extent of the creative ownership that I was being asked to take, and the extent of how much of it I could take, how much authorship I had in creating the character in a collaborative sense. But that was, in my first one, I was very timid. I was not extremely timid, but I was afraid, if you will, to get fired. The best advice I ever got in my life was from Don Cheadle, who said, you know what your problem is? You're too afraid to get fired. And what I took from that was follow your voice, trust your choices, to the point of where you might argue with the person that created the show. Now, this is very high level advice, because some people,
you're going to get in trouble.
Some people going to get themselves in trouble. You need to know who you are and how you know, how you show up at a job. But people do, they, well,
you know, the reality of it though, you know, is that me?
Yeah, I think so.
The reality of it though is, you know, showing up as yourself, sometimes is inconvenient. For others, and that's part of what it is. But you have to advocate for yourself. You have to,
absolutely. And that was the other thing that I learned also, was about advocating for myself. I think that's something that actors, we are not taught how to do. And I've seen it. It's happened to me where I've been in a circumstance where I did not stand up for myself. And I talk about it extensively in the course, about moments where I still like cringe of what I allowed to happen. It took me a few series to realize that, again, there you still have power. You have the ability to say no to things that you feel are violating that might be, degrading or any number of things. I want anybody who watches the course to walk away from it knowing that they have a voice and that they
Mm-hmm.
have agency, because this is how abuse happens and this is how discrimination continues to flow, by people not speaking up. So over the course of my career, I've learned how to use my voice and how to stop things from happening that were not good for me.
Beautiful.
So
Michelle Meredith. What's up, Michelle? Michelle says, I always hear about confidence being key to the series' regular level. Have you ever had a crisis of confidence in your career? And if so, how did you overcome it? Michelle, why are you
Daily.
asking easy questions?
Yeah. But I also realized, though, that a part of being a professional actor is being able to shrug off a bad moment in the scene while
Mhm.
you're having it, to be able to shrug off a bad take and to not internalize it, to be able to shrug off a bad day,
Mhm.
to be able to shrug off a bad episode, because we are all going to have them. And it's so necessary. We've all been there when you just cannot get that line out, no matter what. Now you're hot and you're sweating and you're nervous and the lights are rolling and you're like, God, do I have to say that line again? Every time you say it, you blow it. But I think that it is just about allowing yourself not to be perfect. I think being confident in the fact that you do have a little imposter syndrome, being confident in the fact that you're not perfect, being confident in the fact that, yeah, I do mess up sometimes. And one thing I try to really relay in my course is it's not about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right. You're going to make mistakes. It is okay. You just can't get in a space where you beat yourself up too long about it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Medina, what's up, Medina? What are some of the ways your team? I want to hold on that question, Medina, just because. Let me sort through these. Okay, great. What is your physical process in creating characters beyond the text? But Gabby, can you go into the chat? We're gonna say it again at the end of this, but can you go into the chat and type the email address, the website address where they can get
Can we
Jay's
also
course?
let everybody know that we are giving a coupon code
Yeah,
to
I'll do
everyone
all-
in this studio?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, you can put that all in the chat so that they have the text version of it.
Great.
Okay, and so
The physical. Do we want to talk about that now? Or?
yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah, the physical way that you create characters.
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. It has to come out of the work that I've done. So me personally, I don't enforce or try to I don't try to what's the word? Like force a physicality on the character. I just allow it to come out of the work that I'm doing. My character on Vampire Academy, I think, had the most far physicality from my own. I'm very, casual in the way that I conduct my body. But this character, just all I had to do was think about him, and I've never really stood up so straight in my life, but not only up, but with my chin tucked in. So I just allow the physicality to come out of what I want and who I am and the circumstances of the scene. So I'm not somebody who works very, deeply on like animal exercises, trying to find the physicality. I just allow it and trust that it will come out of the work that I've done. That's how I work.
Cool. Okay, I think this is a great question. Tiffany says, relation to your next 10 jobs are on set. That's what you said. There are many execs on the show. This is a great question. Do you tend to build relationship with ones you truly have a connection with, or do you move strategically? I feel like I already know the answer to that question, but
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I believe in organic relationships. I really do. I don't try to enforce or force a relationship with anybody. There's a certain professional courtesy that's going to go on between you and the executives. But I do try to, because people can smell when you want something.
Yeah.
You already have something in common, which is the show. You care deeply about the show and your character. Hopefully they do too. You have all that great stuff in common. And out of that, hopefully you'll find other things in common as well. I think people ultimately respect people who are in their own skin and don't try to morph into who they think someone else wants them to be. So if I'm not bonding or connecting with a co-star or an executive or a writer or a director, I trust that our bond will be built off of the fact that I'm being honest in this moment about the fact that we don't really have that much to talk about. And I'm not gonna force it, and I trust that you'll respect me more for that.
Mm, mm. I think that also would allow for the relationship to change and grow. You know, if you
Yeah.
start from that sort of honest place of like, this is what the relationship is now, and you never know what that relationship can become. I also want to say in regards to that question, right? Again, it's just sort of like, you know, somebody on set is going to have an organic relationship with you because you everything that you're experiencing they are experiencing, and to me
Yeah.
it's just sort of like in these conversations, just just the honesty, the same kind of honesty that you want to put in to the work, and then put that into your overall just sort of relationships that you're building, and trust that I always look at it as everything that I it helps if you focus and you think to yourself, this is a process. Like I said, we're corporations, we're building our brand. I actually like the word tribe. It's sort of
I
like
love
I'm
that. Yeah.
I'm putting out my feelers to attract more people who are authentically in my tribe. And I'm also
Yes.
trying to,
Beautiful.
express to them my tribe, right? Which is, I'm introverted at times, and I want to be honest about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like there's certain things that I feel like we think don't belong on set, but when you put it out there, then people are experiencing the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if we're leading with us, with who we are, we'll naturally attract the people who are meant to be drawn to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's a good one. I've heard people say to send two takes for self tape to show you can take direction, but do you think that dilutes your performance?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. I think that every office is different. We briefly spoke earlier about some things that I'm hearing that other people are doing in their tapes. I think that right now it's again it's being defined as it's happening. Um, I would only send two takes if I felt really strongly about both choices and I didn't know which one to go with. Otherwise, me personally, I would focus on the choice and the choice that I felt the most strong about, and trust that they'll see something in my work and give me an adjustment if they want to see something otherwise.
Oh, beautiful. Go. Okay, so Jalen, what's up, Jalen? Jalen says, "What advice would you give to someone like myself who has not booked anything, which has been for 4 years, though auditions often? Would you say it's a matter of time, or recommend a different tactic?"
That is a great question. I would love it if we were in the same room together so I could ask you a couple of questions and maybe you can answer here. But how I would ask you first, how confident are you in your process?
Mm,
Do you love your process and does it excite you?
mm,
And even deeper question is, are you using
mm,
your process? Because sometimes
mm,
some of us, a lot of us,
mm,
do one thing in class
mm-hmm.
and then we go out in the real world and do something different because we're like, oh, that's just theater or that's just class. In the real world, I need to do it like this.
Yep.
So those would be my
Are
two.
you psychic? Because I know Jalen, and I think Jalen, that should probably resonate right there.
Oh, wow.
What
Wow.
he just says.
Yeah, that would be my biggest question because just to put a bow on that story, the thing that they gave me at the Actors Gym was a way of working that excited me.
Mm,
And that excitement is what brought me to the series regular level. I was so excited to apply the technique that I was learning on these actual material because I believed in my technique. I trusted my technique. And so I just couldn't wait to
mm.
get an audition and figure out, okay, what parts of me, what scenarios am I going to envision to put myself in this circumstance? I was so excited about the way that I was working. So my question to Jalen would be, are you excited about the way you're working? And if you are you really using it in the real world?
Mm.
Quote unquote.
You know, I'm going to pause on the questions for a second because I just want to
Yes.
sort of riff of some of the things that you're saying. You know, that thing, it has come out of my mouth. I haven't said this recently that, you know, I think as actors, we get hired for our process.
Yes.
And, you know,
Real talk.
yeah, and I'm a little bit flippant about it, but I'm saying like that person who you frustrated by, but, you know, that you don't really think they know how to act,
Mhm.
but they book in all the time. I'm like, their process is real simple.
Mhm.
They do that thing,
Right.
and that is a process, and that's a process that casting can count on.
That's
Right.
right. Right.
And so it's like, great.
You're talking about somebody who might not have studied.
yeah,
They're coming
yeah,
off the street.
yeah.
You know why? Because all they have is them.
Mm,
And that's another reason why a lot of times someone can walk in off the street and you be like, where did he come from? Because they don't have a lot of other stuff. Now they're going to need it.
Yes.
Because guess what? You're going to need a process eventually, because everything you're not going to be able to immediately connect to just basically doing you.
Mhm.
You are going to need an education as an actor if you want to have a career,
Mhm.
because they're going to offer you that role in the Scorsese thing. That's going to be the next.
Yep.
You walked in off the street, you booked a great series regular, you're the star of the show. Now Hollywood wants you for a
Mhm.
feature. Then you're going to go read for Scorsese, and you're not going to be able to be period.
Mhm.
You're not going to be able to use the material that's not in your own voice.
Mhm.
So we all need this education, but sometimes those of us who are trained get a little over intellectual when
Yep.
it comes to television, because in television, I just want to see a real person.
Yeah.
I need to believe that that's you. And I think the pinnacle of television acting is when people go, no one could have played that role but you. That's what we're going for, even in an audition. Especially in an audition. I want to make this character so indelible that the casting director goes, that's the only person that can play this role. It's so specific. That's what we're going
Well,
at.
say that thing that you one of the things that you said is that you, in doing the course, you had a clear realization that character is found. I'm doing a bad version of it. Maybe you remember it, where you said that you used to think that character was already there or something like that, but then you realize that character is created.
Yeah.
What is it?
Especially in television, that
Yeah.
they basically, in the script, it's just a skeleton of a character. I mean, they might not admit that, or they might not. Some do and some don't.
Yeah.
But there's a skeleton of a character there. Now you have to come and give it bones, and you have to give it blood, and you have to give it, arteries, and you have to bring it to life. So I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, well, one of the things that and maybe this isn't what you said, but one of the things I received from it is that you, what I got from it was that you were saying that, when you send in that audition tape and they see the character in your mannerisms, your skin, they go, that's the character.
Yes.
And
it's
it
not
starts
that, right. I think what I said was, it's not that you're the person that they were looking for, it's that you gave them a person that they found. Yeah.
And so then connect that to me, because and what you were talking about with Jalen, because I think this is important. Love of your process.
Yes.
We were just chatting before this before we started the session, and we were talking about our friends who have very different process than we do. And you talk about that, and I think it's so important that you figure out what your process is. And
Jalen, it sounds like that's exactly where Jalen is. Like, if he's studying, I feel like he's probably getting a really great process. My question is he applying it?
Yeah.
That's just,
yeah.
and Jalen, I don't know what the answer to that is, but it sounds like it might be something along those lines.
Yeah, but that whole idea of just love of your process and worrying less about the result.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
the other day I had someone in class, they felt like they sent a great self-tape, and then they said, they were like, and then I found out I didn't book the job. So now, and I'm like, but that didn't
still
mean
a great self-tape.
Yeah, that didn't mean you didn't send a great self-tape, right? But
Yeah.
it's about that love of the process that you're leaning in and you're sending. Okay, now maybe I'm getting a little hippy-dippy, but I'll be very, very, and I think you're going to co-sign with me,
Okay.
right? If there is love in what you're doing, if that is what you are emitting into your work, like, they are human beings, y'all. They're not machines. And
Yeah.
so if there is love by you showing up or you having a process that you enjoy,
Yeah.
it really does, I think, emit and it lives for everywhere you go. Because
Yes.
you walk into a room, and if I feel like, can I just be vulnerable for 2 seconds?
Please.
Right?
Please.
One of the most sort of like, I think, successful periods of my life was when I fell in love, right? Because I was in love, and I was in love with the world. And like
Yes.
all of a sudden, just like all these things start coming to you. And that's one of
Yes.
the things that I've learned from life is just sort of like, just be in love, like be the thing that you,
Yes.
and so even in the process, be able to commit to it. And you say something that I think is fantastic, and I'm steal it from you. You say defy expectations, right?
Did I say that? I don't think that's mine.
No, you did.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Sidebar though, can I just say this?
Yeah.
It's so funny though, because when I booked Vampire Academy, I was falling in love with my husband. And I did a Zoom callback, and I just couldn't wait for it to be over so that I could go hang out with him. And is that, I mean, I always say that's the only, I feel like of all the self-tapes I've ever made, I got 2 callbacks. One was for Steven Spielberg, and the other was a series that I booked, Vampire Academy. And now that you mention it, I think that had a lot to do with it. I do. And it served the character as well. So yeah. But defy expectations, I don't think that's me.
I think that's you, man.
Really?
I have it written here.
It sounds like a slogan for
I
something.
I can go hard and like convince you that that's what you said.
Right. Maybe I did it in regards to what? In regards to
So what you said was and how I and let me say this, right? I really enjoyed, because I knew this was going to happen because I just know you. And so when I was you going through your course, I was very interested in terms of, from my journey, like just sort of like I've studied so many different aspects of technique, and from the actor perspective and also the acting teacher perspective.
Okay.
Right? And so I was just super interested to hear your perspective because of the nexus of where you sat in terms of like the amount of work you've done, what I know you to be as an artist, and also how insightful you were. And so you said some things in your words that I would then be like, yep, this is why that goes to that. That makes sense with that. And it was brilliant, and it was so and said in a human way. But one of the things that you said is defying expectation, or maybe those weren't the words that you said, and that it's what I received from it is that it's always an important part of storytelling. Meaning that no matter what story that you tell, whether you're doing a self-tape or whether we're doing a play, if you ain't defying my fucking oh damn, I just
wow.
If you ain't defying my expectations, then I as the viewer, I'm not going to get involved, right? And so I think part of the thing that you're saying is that
I know what you're talking about. I think
Yes.
you might be talking about when I was talking about playing the opposite. Could it be that?
Yes, you talked about that.
Yes. So in booking my very first series regular, that was the key. I saw Meryl Streep on an episode of Inside the Actor Studio where she said, always examine the opposite of what your character is saying. Now, in the scene, I was pushing this person away, telling them how much I hated them.
Yeah.
But right before I walked in the audition, I heard Meryl's voice and go, because I didn't know how to play the scene. It was 4 pages of me pushing
You
this
just be
character
hearing
away.
Meryl's voice?
In this particular case, I did, because I was so hungry. I was searching. I was like, I don't know what to do with this one. And so as I walked through the door, I heard her voice, and I played it the opposite. I played it like, I really actually want to team up with you so desperately, but I don't know how to say it to you because I am a homeless street youth, and these things have happened to me in my life that have made me untrusting of people.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to push you away. I'm trying to bring you closer.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is an example for me about the depth of work that needs to be done that is different from a series regular versus a co-star or a guest star. A co-star or a guest star, you need to hit the beats as written for the story to be propelled for the most part. But for a series regular, now I get to play a little bit because we want the audience to follow me. So I get to be emotionally complex.
Mhm.
If you're a guest star and you're more emotionally complex than me, we got a problem.
Mhm.
But as the series regular, and so that emotional complexity, I think, is one of the things that distinguishes a good series regular audition from
Yeah.
any other kind of
Yeah.
audition.
And what I received from that was the context, and what I received from that is, you know, that sort of implicit thing that we need in storytelling, right? Which is, you said, defying expectations, or we can, you know, say it, you know, simply as surprise. I need for there to be a surprise.
I did say surprise.
Right?
Yes.
I need to be there needs to be a surprise. And I
Yes.
think, you know, upon this sort of like thing of utilizing self, right?
Yeah.
That when you do that, because you are only you,
Right.
that automatically then also brings in that element of surprise.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, oh, I did not know my character was going to this character ultimately was gonna have the, you know, is going to be this eloquent, you know, black man. You know, as you were surprised of your relationship to the first series regular that you booked
Yes.
as well. And so I'm
Right.
just saying that sort of like implicit element of surprise and welcoming that. And when you work, you know, as yourself, then automatically then we're then starting to get more engaged in terms of like, oh, where is this going to go? Because I haven't seen it lived through this this particular life force. You know
Absolutely. And I love this conversation right before I have to work on an audition, because I'm going to go home right now and I'm going to work on it right now. But the
He is
beautiful
hinting.
thing,
He's like, Desean, we
no,
need
no,
to
no, not
end
at all. I
this.
wasn't hinting. But the beautiful thing is, you know, the hunt is never over. Like, I'm sitting here right now, and as you were saying that, I was thinking about the amount of work that I have to do on the audition that I have to go do and turn in tomorrow at 3:00. Because right now, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with this character. And this whole process for me of doing this class is also me embracing the fact that till the day I die, I'm going to be trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's the work.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And it's okay. So I'm excited to go home tonight and figure out what parts of myself I can embed in this character and make it seem like there's no one else who can play this part.
Dang. That's my second time cursing in 5 minutes. I'm sorry, y'all. So I want to start to end with you're looking at the questions, because I have a little bit of
Gabby
something I
had
want
a
to use.
question, though.
Is there any questions that we have to get answered based off of what you're seeing? Because I can't see the full document. This would be the last
Gabby
chance
had
to
her
do
own
that.
question, though.
Oh yeah, Gabby. Yeah, can we do that? Yeah, Gabby. What's your question? I don't remember. Say it. Gabby don't want to come on camera. Can you repeat the question so that the
So
audience?
for anyone who didn't hear, she asked me if coming out, because I came out as a gay man in 2020 during the press run of our show, Council of Dads. Well, I would say I came out professionally before that, right before we started the show. On Council of Dads, I got the role of a married gay father who was being asked by his best friend's husband to sort of be a surrogate dad to their children. And the script was beautiful, the role was beautiful, and I was at a point in my life where I decided that in order to move forward, I had to fully embrace who I was as a human being. I did, and then this role came, right? But I had never been out with the people that I work with before. And I realized that in order to creatively own the character and collaborate as a full collaborator, I would have to come out to the people that I work with if I wanted to do the level of work that I wanted to do. I could have not, and it would have been fine. But what I'm aspiring to, again, my goal is when someone watches my work, I want them to say, nobody could have played that role but him. So knowing that that's what I wanted, I knew that I wanted this to feel like the most authentic black gay man you've ever seen on television. Not, not a stereotype, not a cartoon character. I wanted him to be super authentic. And the only way that I was going to do that would be able to say to the writers, this is my life. And this is what I know of my community. And this is what I want to see on the walls in my house. and this is, this is how I want to get down and what I want to wear, and this is what this is who I'm seeing. I took that character by the reins. There was no way they were going to let me do that if I was walking through the set acting like, well, I have gay friends who say that, they wouldn't have, bought what I was selling. So to answer that question, did it release my instrument? 100%. 100%. There was no way I could have played that role. And unfortunately, I've watched a few actors play characters like that and try to stay in the closet at the same time. And it was destructive to their soul. And so I didn't want that for myself. So it definitely released me deeply. And I grew so much as a human being and got married myself right after it, something that I had been wanting to do and not quite sure what the block was. So it more importantly than my work, it freed me as a person and gave me a richer life. I now realize that the only reason one comes out is for their own satisfaction. That's it. It ain't about nothing else. It ain't about, was I authentic in the role? It wasn't about, openly gay actors playing openly gay characters. None of that is relevant. The only thing that is relevant is my happiness. And I'm happy as fuck.
Okay, so sort of wrapping it up, we have several business questions. Dang, man, this is so complicated what we do as I'm sitting here having this conversation. Just so many angles we got to look at it.
Right.
But there is one question where someone is asking, how does your team? There's a lot of questions about team, and I unfortunately, we can't go over everything that he talks about
because it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I've had a lot of iterations of teams, and I have a lot of opinions, based on my own experience and the experience of many actors that I've worked with about who you should have on your team and who you should maybe wait to put on your team. I have very specific ideas about how the industry has changed and how there was a time when certain people on your team was just a fact. You booked a series, you hired this one, you hired that one, you hired that one, you hired this one. But in this climate, I don't think that those rules apply anymore.
Yeah.
So I have very specific ideas about that in the course. I have had many teams.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, but maybe we will have you back because I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Me too.
Man.
This has been great. I mean, I feel like I can feel the people out there.
Yeah.
But this has been very warm and very wonderful. But I have a lot to say on that topic, but you're right. We should save it.
Yeah, deeply inspirational. Gabby's signaling me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. The point of the course really to me is to prepare you for the job before you book it, because I think if you know what the job is, then you have then when we know what something is, we know what we have to do to attain it. So that was the premise I built my whole career on. I felt like if I could be around working actors, then it would become real for me, and then I would become a working actor. So yes.
And I think it's just so great to have a real life definition and understanding of what it is. It's not, what you learned in grad school, but these are the things that you have to do, and you go through it so in-depthly. You also talk about, finances and sort of that financial structure. I know I have my own personal advice that I give to as soon as, one of my friends, students, anyone that they tell me that, hey, I'm about to book this thing and I'm about to make the most money I've ever made. I have my set things that I say to them. I was like, do this. And I have heard nightmares about what people experience when they didn't do that. There's also the, the sort of like the contract. Once you get that contract negotiation, you talk about that. Like, what should you do?
Right.
What should you have not done?
Yes, exactly.
Right? Because
the mistakes I made.
Yes, because a lot of people, again, y'all, I know it's so hard, but every single person on the call needs to remember that possibly tomorrow you are going to get that series regular job and it's go time, right?
Right.
And, so as much information as you can download.
I heard Monique say that in her interview just the other day, the one with Shannon Sharp that just came on.
She said?
She said the exact same thing. She said, there's no such thing as Hollywood 101. They put you in the position, and they just expect you to know it, and that is highly unfortunate.
Or there's something business wise that they, we live. This is not demonizing the industry. This is just capitalism. There are certain things that they want you not to know.
Oh,
So
I mean, definitely.
right. So
hands down. Yeah.
So the course is beingAseriesregular.com, right?
Yes.
I got it right.
Yes.
And for anyone, Jay has graciously given a discount for people who do it utilizing this code. The code is sorry, y'all.
Acting Studio
Thank you.
50. So Last Acting Studio, the number 50, and that is the code.
Yeah,
That is
so
the
put that
coupon
in
code.
as the coupon code, and Gabby has also put it in the chat.
Yes, all
caps.
caps. All
It has
caps.
to be caps. Okay, great.
Yes, on the code. Yes.
Great. And then Gabby has put it in the chat, and we will also email it out to y'all again. And know that code is only available until
Saturday.
February 14th.
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, he decided to cut you off on Valentine's Day. Right? At least they have until midnight, right?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Okay, y'all, we have to wrap up, and I just want to say thank you again to Outside in Theater for allowing us to do this cool in person. Usually we do this
Great.
just on Zoom, and so I'm excited that we're playing with the format. And Outside in Theater in Highland Park. Remember, KC's show is coming up, and this is the Last Acting Studio. If you guys want to check out more about what we do, we are over at Pico and Alvarado. We have scene study, film and TV audition classes, and we do have free sample classes where you get to work with the instructors, meet us in person, and see if it's a place that you vibe with and that you want to study further. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
you
you
so much. This was so great. Thank you, everyone who watched. Appreciate you so much. This was just such a pleasure. Thank
Dope.
you.
Are we still on? Is it still happening? What's going on? Are we still? Is it over?
It ain't over.
Okay. It's